Hey guys, welcome back. Today I am going to be working in my December not quite daily album again. I did something a little bit different this year in that I sat down one day and made a few, I'm not going to call them foundation pages, I just kind of played with some ideas for pages that I thought I might like to put in my album, but I wasn't actually planning on completing them those days. I was just kind of getting a little bit ahead of myself, and this is one of those pages. So I've started with a base page for my Life Crafted album. This is just plain white cardstock. I've trimmed it out. It is 5 by 8¼ inches, and then I grabbed my circle dies and I'm just arranging 4 circle dies onto this page. Now I'm actually only going to die cut 3 of these. You can see here the 4th one I'm going to just use my pencil and use it as kind of a template for some stitching that I'm going to do. I'm also going to stitch around another 2 of these dies, but I am going to cut out the middle. So because there's a little overlap with the middle die, I can draw around the outside and then die cut the middle, and my pencil line's still going to be there and give me a little template for stitching, just a little way out from where it's actually die cut. And the 3rd hole I die cut in the middle of my stitching template. So the first thing I want to do is do all of that stitching, and to turn these circles into baubles, I'm literally just going to grab my ruler and draw a line from the middle of the pencil line circle to the top of the page. Now these ones at the top, they don't have that huge a string on them, but it is enough to kind of give it a bauble shape. Now my intention with this was that behind those cutout parts I would end up putting photos, and so the rest of the page I can do ahead of time, and I can add those photos in later on once I've actually got a page that I want to make. So to stitch these bauble shapes, all I'm doing is I just grab my little stitching mat there and just a drawing pin, and I'm pre-punching all of these holes around all 3 of the baubles, not being like super precise about where the holes are, but just making it so that they're large enough a gap that it's not going to take me forever to stitch, but small enough that it still is going to fit enough holes around the outside to make it a circle. And then once the holes are punched all the way around, I can go ahead and erase all of those pencil marks. Any little sort of leftover pieces of pencil are going to get hidden by the thread anyway, but this way you can be certain that there's no pencil that's going to show through. And then you can go ahead and stitch it. Now I had a little bit of a dilemma as to what color I was going to stitch these in. I definitely could have gone down any of these roads, like a pastel sort of minty color or perhaps a bolder red. In the end, I've gone for white. Because I don't know what this page is actually going to turn out like at the moment, I decided simplest was best. So you can see these are where my photos are going to go, and what I want to do is fill in the inside of one of these baubles. So I've gone ahead and stitched it in white, and that way it won't matter what sort of colorings my photos have or how busy this page ends up being once I start filling in this bauble. The shape is there, but it's just a little bit more subtle using the white. So I pulled out a whole bunch of stickers. I've got some puffy stickers from both the Crepe Paper Hey Santa line and Citrus Twist. I've got some Citrus Twist chipboard stickers, and I've also got the Hey Santa sticker book. And I'm going to fill in the largest bauble down here. So I'm starting with the smaller stickers. I found the sticker book really hard to work with, so in the end I ripped all the sticker pages out of the actual book and just used it as individual pages. But as far as the actual filling in of this bauble goes, I'm starting with the smaller stickers first, because I do have a very small gap between my stitching and where I've punched the hole for my 2x2 photo. You can see there I've backed all of the photos just with some spare cardstock, and I've written on the dimensions so that when I go to actually print some photos, I don't have to measure anything. I know what photos and what sizes I need to fill in the gaps. So that just makes it a little bit easier. Plus having the darker cardstock in there gives me some indication of kind of the visual weight that the page will have once I actually put photos in here. And the rest of this is literally just a case of filling up the gap with these stickers. And I learned very quickly not to press anything down too solidly to start off with. I started with those smaller stickers, and the ones that came out of that sticker book, I mean, they're stuck down pretty good, to be fair. But these larger ones, the puffy stickers and the chipboard stickers, they can be shifted around a little bit. So I'm starting with some of the bigger ones and trying to spread out kind of the visual weight a little bit. And then I can go back in and fill in some of the gaps with some smaller stickers. Now, because I ended up having to add, I think it's like a little holly leaf down the bottom in that gap, and it is black. So I need to make sure that as I'm filling in the rest of these stickers, that I'm adding just a few little pops of black in here, just to make sure that there's not one odd little black sticker down the bottom. And you can see this is what I mean. It paid not to sort of stick anything down too strongly until I've filled in some of those gaps, because I do need to shuffle things around a little bit to make sure they fit. I think overestimated how much space there was to fill up, and once you start putting these stickers down, the space fills up pretty quickly. The only other thing that I'm trying to pay kind of attention to is the balance of color, and so that not all of the like green stickers are all in one place and all of the red stickers are in one place, just to kind of balance it all out. And you can see here, going through the sheets, adding in some of these little smaller black stickers. It's quite good actually, because I probably would never use these little clear stickers in any other way apart from this, so it worked out nicely. I am adding some of the smaller puffy stickers too, because I like that variety of texture in there. I've got a little bit of texture going on with the stitching, and so having some puffy stickers and some chipboard and some flat, it gives me just a little bit of variety to what otherwise is a very simple page. And that's kind of my motto this year with these pages, is I want to add texture without too much dimension. I'm working in a Life Crafted album, and it's a little bit smaller than what I'm usually used to, and so I am just trying to pare things back a little bit this year and make it easier on myself by doing things like this, but also not trying to overdo every single page. I don't feel this year that I need to add everything to every page. Now I decided that there were a few gaps in here that I could fill in with some enamel dots. I've got this huge stash of partially used enamel dot sheets, and so this is the perfect kind of thing to use up some of those dots, and again adds a little bit of texture, a little bit of shine, but not a huge amount of bulk. So it worked out perfectly, especially since some of them are very small dots. And I didn't have a whole bunch of like very tiny little stickers, and so the enamel dots was kind of a perfect solution for filling in some of those gaps. Now, I was kind of determined to use as many of these enamel dots as I can, because I would love to not have so much stash left over at the end of this December, and so as well as like filling in gaps, it's also the perfect excuse to kind of use a bit more stuff. The other thing that the enamel dots were good for was kind of balancing out those colors, and some of those Hey Santa stickers, they tend to a little bit towards the blue side of teal, and so I just added in a couple of little blue enamel dots as well, just to sort of tie those colors in together and stop it being altogether too pink and green themed. Now the last thing I wanted to do to, again, just visually fill in some of those gaps, but also tie that black back in, I just grabbed a gel pen and added a few little faux splatters. I mean, there's no way you could splatter this and get it in the right position, so the gel pen works perfectly. Just random little dots, filling in some of those larger gaps, and it just helps to kind of create that full circle effect. So now that the page is actually finished and I have some photos, this is a completely different day. I'm just going to really quickly finish up this spread. It is going to end up being a spread because I want to add my photos onto this page, and then I'm going to add my journaling onto another little page that will go on the left. So when I did, and I did a few of these kind of base pages, probably the only thing I would do differently next time is not hole punch anything, because I didn't know where anything was going in my album. It made it a little bit, I guess, a little bit more difficult to put the final pages together, because I was stuck with this page having to go on the right hand side, where I don't necessarily know that that's where I would have put it had I not hole punched. So you learn something new every day. I am using a little bit of the scrapbook.com smart glue to adhere my photos behind those punched holes. I just need to, some of them I need to trim down a little bit so they don't overhang the holes that I have punched. But because those top two were stitched very close to the hole, it was a little bit harder to glue it down. So the liquid adhesive worked nicely because I could apply the adhesive on top of the actual stitching and stick that onto the photo. And I've just used a bit of tape just to stick down those edges of the photos. I'll end up backing this page with something else, and so I just wanted to make sure that that wasn't going to make it difficult. So those photos are all stuck down nicely. So I have trimmed out a little page to go onto the left hand side. This one is I think I'm going to say 4¼ inches wide. It's going to go inside one of the pocket pages. So I think it's just slightly shy of 4¼ That's what I'm going to do my journaling on. And I'm going to end up stitching another little bauble onto that side just to tie the two pages together. But I wanted to add my title onto this side of the spread, and I had kind of planned that there was enough space for it to go around the outside of this larger bauble. So I grabbed these little alphas from Citrus Twist. They're so pretty. I have already used some ease though, so the title that I was kind of planning on I couldn't really have, and I just felt like the red was kind of taking away too much attention from the actual bauble and the stitching. So you can see I play around a whole lot. I can't find anything that I like, and I decide to give that up and I'm gonna go and try some white alphas. It's a much more subtle effect. I put down one letter and I knew I loved it so much more than the red, so I am giving up. I'm pulling all of my letters back off. I hadn't stuck them down like fully to the page, which was very, very handy of me because I wasn't entirely convinced before I started. So that was lucky. I could pull those off, and then I can go ahead and stick this new title down with the white alphas. But I started off with my kind of altered title, but I only altered that title because I had run out of ease, so I don't need to do that with this. This is a brand new sheet of white alphas, so I'm going to redo the title the way I wanted it, and I'm going to say trim the tree. So one word at the top, two words at the bottom. It really is a much more subtle title. It's only there if you really look for it, and I much prefer that. It just helps that bauble really stand out. So as far as my left-hand side goes, I wanted something to tie these two pages together, and I thought maybe just a circle chipboard would work, or I had some punched circles out of some scraps that I had spare. I just wanted something circular on this side, and at this point I was trying to avoid re-stitching. I didn't want to do any more stitching, but in the end it's going to work out to be the best option because it really will tie those two pages together and be nice and subtle. So I did my journaling on my typewriter. It's probably more words than what I had thought it was going to be, and so this is a little bit tight down here, adding this stitched bauble. I wanted to make the circle down here big enough to add some stuff into to kind of tie those two pages together. So it's a little bit tight. If I hadn't added that sort of second paragraph, it would have worked much better. as it is, I'm okay with it. So I'm repeating the exact same process using the die as a stencil and my ruler, and then I stitched that all in white, and then I'm going to repeat the exact same process again of filling in this little bauble, although I will say much easier process this time because it is a whole lot smaller, so there isn't a whole lot more to fill in. It did mean I've used up most of the small stickers that I have in my stash though, so this is definitely not a technique that I will be able to repeat again in this album, but I do love how it turned out. So I'm making sure that I'm adding all of the same colors that I had added in that original bauble. I'm mostly sticking with puffy stickers and these flat clear stickers just because the chipboard was going to take up way too much room in there. And I'm going to do the same thing, fill in those little gaps with some enamel dots and some fake splatters, and that will be this page all done. I'm really pleased with how this came out. I've kind of proven to myself that I don't need to add all of the things to a page for it to still be fun and whimsical and full of texture and color. And it's been a really interesting exercise trying the idea of creating these sort of base pages before I actually sit down and work on a page. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. If you want to keep watching, there are a couple more videos, or why not head over to my Patreon page and join in the 12 Days of Craftmas. Otherwise, I'll see you again really soon. Bye guys.